72 children are hospitalized as a result of dental treatment in Southern California. Contaminated dental unit water was the cause of this particular infection outbreak. The children suffered irreparable harm. Over 100 lawsuits were filed. I know. I was one of the investigators on this particular case at the Pediatric Dental Clinic in Orange County, California. These type of infection control breaches happen, and they appear in the news. 1,200 children are affected when a Seattle-based school dental clinic had announced that they had used unsterile instruments on 1,200 children. The parents were advised to have their children tested for hepatitis and HIV. Now, the probability of infection transmission was very, very low, but can you imagine the panic that these parents experienced? These are the consequences of not conducting infection control training in your dental practice. You know, sometimes we're resistant as dental professionals to want to spend the time on these regulatory compliance subjects. But if we don't, we find that there are gaps in infection control that can cause infection. And it's important to be sure and confident that every single patient gets a safe and secure dental visit every single time. Now, I specialize in training dental professionals on how to comply with complex regulations, and especially when it comes to OSHA and infection control. So one of the things that I've discovered in my efforts to make the subject a little bit more enjoyable is that we need to add some sort of activity and fun to the matter. I've found that there's 3 things that seem to hold us back from being able to do this, being able to make infection control sticky. Now, let me just explain this sticky comment. I want you to think for a moment. You have made reservations at a wonderful restaurant, and it's an expensive restaurant. You go in, you've waited a long time to eat there. The maitre d' lays the napkin across your lap, and by the way, it's a black napkin, so it doesn't make your clothes get those white little fuzzes on it. And you're anticipating a wonderful meal. You put your arm on the table, and it's sticky. Somebody didn't do a very good job. And you look at the silverware, and it has some food on it. And the water glass has a lipstick stain on it. You don't forget something like that. That's memorable. With infection control in a dental setting, I want to make it sticky. I want to make it memorable, and I want to make it fun. And I have 3 top tips on how you can accomplish that and get your team to embrace infection control training. Tip number 1, attitude. You have to start at the top. Attitude from the leader, the right message from the leader of the practice will make all the difference in the world. And it's well documented that people will follow a good leader. So speak positively about the benefits of infection prevention in a dental setting. And think about how it protects the patients and how it protects the team and, of course, the reputation of the practice. The second thing is that we need to appoint somebody to be in charge of infection control. Now, not everybody is going to run to the call to be the infection control coordinator. But the person that does get that job, and there really has to be someone in the dental practice that does that. According to the American Dental Association, a study that they published in JADA revealed that we fall short on adhering to infection control recommendations from CDC. And one of those recommendations is that every dental practice should have an infection control coordinator. So we appoint someone. Now we need to arm them with the tools they need in order to do their job. And there's several different resources out there. OSAP is one. Have you heard of OSAP? A lot of people haven't. The Organization for Safety, Asepsis, and Prevention. And this organization provides training, tools, online games, infection control Jeopardy, all sorts of things to help make your infection control coordinator have the skills and the tools that they need to do their job, and the resources as well. Now, the third thing I think is that sometimes we're worried about approaching our team and confronting them with regards to something that they did wrong, a misstep. There's a little anxiety in coming up to a coworker and saying, I think you made a mistake. Now, we worked in our practice with a young lady named Sally. And if you told Sally that she did something wrong, she would make you pay. It wasn't just for one day. She would give you the stink eye for like 2 weeks. So ultimately, we didn't tell Sally anymore what the problems were, and we never got to the root of the problem. We would just take care of it ourselves because we didn't want to be going through that distress with her. Now, another thing that I wanted to point out is that we have to be approachable. So Sally wasn't approachable. I learned a great lesson about being approachable from my wonderful husband, Mike. You see, we work together, we live together, we travel together, we're always together. And that could be a perfect recipe for not getting along and for not being nice to each other. So he taught me a very big lesson in being approachable. We have 3 rules in order to survive as a couple and as business partners. And in a dental practice, you're working with a family, so you have to survive as well. The first rule is we never leave each other without saying goodbye and I love you, and a kiss. And we never go to sleep angry. Refer to rule number 1. And the third thing is, thou shalt not go to bed without doing the dishes and putting the food away at night. It's the most important rule. You see, we live on a ranch, and if you don't put the dishes away and you don't put the food away, ants and mice come. I asked Mike one night, would you do the dishes for me and put the food away? I'm just so tired, I'm going to bed. He says, sure, honey. He's so accommodating. I get up the next morning, I walk into the kitchen, there's ants everywhere, and there's Stuart Little sitting on a plate, nibbling on a piece of bread with his cute little mousy face and his long tail. I'm headed off to the bedroom to tell Mike what I think about his not doing the dishes. He hears me coming. I get to the bedroom, and I open up the door and I say, you didn't do the dishes! He heard me coming. He hops out of bed and he says, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Thank you for bringing that. He gets up, he scoots Stuart outside, he cleans up the ants, he gets all the dishes put away, and I had a lot of things I wanted to say behind behind you didn't do the dishes. But he took the wind out of my sails. He was approachable. So remember, in a dental setting, appoint an infection control coordinator, make sure you arm them with the tools they need, and be approachable. Thank you.